In mid-June of 2024, we flew from SFO to Anchorage, spent the night in the airport, did some light exercises and stretching the next day, before flying way out in the Aleutian Islands to Adak. The 737 was mostly empty and only flies from Anchorage to Adak 2 days a week. After a week in Adak, we flew back to Anchorage, drove to Kenai, and used that as our base for day trips to Seward, Homer, and Whittier. During World War II, the population of Adak was approximately 6,000, including my Grandpa Joe. Now, per Wikipedia, the population is down to 45. I've been told that these buildings, former military housing, were purchased on the cheap and insured for full replacement value, and then left to fall apart in the insane Adak weather. After a few false turns, we found our accommodation, this sweet duplex that also came with a big red 4x4. Each unit of the duplex was fully furnished and had 3 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms. Exploring the leftover food and other items in the kitchen was especially fun. Finding Star Trek: The Next Generation DVDs was an unexpected bonus.
Bruh.
More about Shinlon and Shiling later. The bus wasn't running, but that's not so much of a problem when anyone can drive, including 13-year-old Maymay. I'm glad the kids got to experience the now forbidden pleasure of riding in the back of a pickup truck. The Adak General Store is open a few hours a day for a few hours a week and has a little bit of everything. If you want pre-made food, well, you're out of luck. This McDonald's opened in 1986 and closed 8 years later when the Navy left the island. Adak National Forest, highly recommended. Will this private helicopter come in handy in a few days? Let's wait and see. Miles of sandy beaches to explore.
Ah! Helps to scream.
The water was calm and surprisingly not too cold. If you enjoy exploring abandoned military buildings, boy, this is the place for you. They come in all shapes and sizes, and you can go anywhere. Just watch out for the lead paint and asbestos. But please, bring a flashlight, and a backup flashlight, and a friend, just in case, and no open-toed shoes.
Sure.
But good luck finding a window that hasn't already been smashed out. Time for some target practice with the AR-15. Whoops!
Oh dear.
That's better. With assault rifle training now completed, it's time to head off into the wilderness in search of caribou. From the Finger Bay Trailhead, we headed along the west side of Lake Betty on the way towards Gannett Pass. Don't worry, we added fluoride to the water before drinking it. After a snack break at the pass, we headed down the other side to Gannett Lake, where Tony and Mike set up camp while the rest of us hiked back out. Em and David decided to wait for us at the pass. Back over the pass, headed towards this unnamed lake, down the slippery slope towards Lake Betty. Can you see the kids? Oh! 10 p.m. Back at the trucks after 11 hours. After 1 day of rest, we're heading back out. This time with supplies for Mike and Tony. Plus, the 4 kids have their own backpacking gear. They'll be staying overnight. Visibility is poor and footing is treacherous. At this point, we're over the pass and heading down the other side. PJ is next to me on the downhill side. And then he's not. He's slipped, and without the courtesy of a shriek, slides down the hill into the fog and disappears. Did he fly off a cliff or slam into a rock outcropping? Both are possible. Then, something. Over the wind we can hear him, but just barely. He's okay, but how do we reunite? Even though we are currently on snow, ice axes sure would be nice, but we make do with trekking poles, slowly descending towards him. Once reunited, we continue down, but I have very little hope that we will be able to find Tony and Mike's campsite in the whiteout conditions. Then, quite suddenly, out of the mist, the Black Diamond Pyramid Tarp appears. We have found Tony and Mike. And they had a successful hunt the previous day. So, we all head south towards Teardrop Lake to carry out the meet. Up and over another small hill. Visibility is not improving. Down to Teardrop Lake and the 2 caribou that Mike shot the previous day. Tony and Em immediately begin butchering the meat that the bald eagles haven't gotten to. David lends a hand and then joins in with the butchering. PJ helps with the ribs, while May keeps guard. Xinlan and Shi Ling get in on the action.
Yay! There you go. And also a little bite from it.
Then, Raw Heart is sampled by May, Xinlan, and Em.
I think that tastes better cooked.
David, the organizer of the trip, and Caribou number 1. May, PJ, Em, Xinlan, Shiling, Tony, and David, along with a big pile of meat and the carcass. While the adults butcher the second caribou, the kids organize a hunting party of their own. Following their hunt was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. Chasing them up and down the grassy hills, under the blue skies, it was simply magical. Unfortunately, hunting season opened and closed with 0 shots fired, as they were unable to get a clean look at any of the caribou. Now, with the fog rolling back in, it's time to get back to the campsite and haul out the caribou. All of the partially butchered meat was carried from Teardrop Lake back to the camp at Gannett Lake by the kids. And while they set up their camp, I volunteered for some Type 2 fun. All of the meat would be carried out to the truck by me. Help was required to shoulder the heavy load, and I absolutely needed trekking poles, which I normally don't use. I expected and indeed looked forward to the physical challenge. However, the mental test was quite unexpected. Heading up into the fog, we unknowingly followed our compass bearings into the wrong drainage. Gannett Pass is at around 1,000 feet in elevation, but when our phones told us we had reached that altitude, the pass was nowhere in sight, just steep, slippery slopes. Em discovered our error and directed us to contour to the west, attempting to neither gain nor lose elevation. The traverse was going well until we encountered an impassable ravine. Heading down looked more promising than climbing, so we descended, but losing all of that hard-fought potential energy before the ravine relented nearly broke me. M finally got us back on track, and I thankfully followed her, a muddy zombie, constantly slipping and falling. And finally, back to the truck around 2 a.m., about 14 hours after setting off. Tony and the kids came out the following day, actually the same day. They also got lost.
Everyone.
And Mike for the shooting.
Everyone preparing meat.
And the fiddleheads from the kids.
Caribou stew with wild fiddlehead ferns. A day of meat processing. I get rid of the hair from butchering in the field. Then hand it over to M and David for further butchering. Meanwhile, the kids were out hunting.
Ptarmigan!
Wait, do it again. Okay. And thus ends the Adak portion of our Alaska adventure. After a week in Adak, we flew to Anchorage, then drove to Kenai, where we would stay in David's guest cabin for the next few days and take day trips. The first being to Homer. After the excitement in Adak, it was nice to have a lazy day.
Totally! That would be the best! What do you mean? Why would you give that up?
The view of the mountains and glaciers from the middle of Kachemak Bay at the end of the Homer Spit were spectacular. After some bicycle fun, we checked out North America's most westerly highway point and watched this bald eagle. Our next day trip would be to Exit Glacier, just outside of Seward. While Homer was okay, Exit Glacier is a 10 out of 10 absolutely must-do attraction. The trail is 4.1 miles each way and takes you up to the Harding ice field, gaining 3,000 feet of elevation. I simply don't have words to describe how magical this hike was. For the rest of my life, I will remember chasing the kids over the green hills under the blue skies while they hunted caribou on Adak. And this hike up to the Harding ice field is no different.
Get ready. 10 o'clock.
On our last full day in Alaska, we would go to Whittier to fish and shrimp in Prince William Sound. And to get there, we would take a 2.5-mile long tunnel that is one way and accommodates both train and car traffic. Another cool thing about Whittier is that everyone lives in this single building. But now it's time for fishing and shrimping in Prince William Sound with Tony.
Now the rule is you don't have to eat it, but you gotta give a kiss. First element.
Do I really?
What do you think?
It's not the heaviest thing I've carried. I'm struggling a lot.
Can I help you?
Yes. It's not the most comfortable thing I've carried either.
Yeah.